The Kansai Osaka Expo was a success as it has drawn more spectators than expected. As the expo nears its close, each country's pavilion stands out with its own message and character.
I always like to show people is this here.
Let's look back into the messages each country's pavilions had brought into light. At this expo, large screens were iconic tools used in most pavilions. At Australia's pavilion, after the visitors were able to experience eucalyptus forest as if they were walking through it, and the night sky projected on top, told through Aboriginal star stories. What truly captivated audiences were the massive screens, where the country's vast natural landscapes unfolded in powerful, lifelike footage. In the United States Pavilion, benefiting a spacefaring nation, and launch into space experience using the large screens drew attention. The venue became the iconic experience for visitors to feel the energy and excitement of a liftoff. And it was Canada that drew the attention with its AR tech. This iceberg-shaped pavilion was awarded for the best tech integration.
Come to Moko, the snow, or out of the rain. So Canada's theme is regeneration. And so basically one of the most potent images of regeneration in the world, I would say, is the springtime, because that's a time of regrowth. And so our pavilion is actually based on that springtime imagery. So what you're seeing outside is one of our rivers, the Mackenzie River in Canada. And so in the springtime, when that river thaws, all the ice breaks up and starts to flow down, collects, sometimes smashes together and creates these jagged images, or jagged forms. And so the pavilion itself is based on that image, that shape of those jagged forms. So those are called ice dams.
Their iconic exhibit are these icebergs using AR tech. But how does this work? Let's find out. First, you are given a tablet and would experience salmon swimming in the river through AR.
Sort of my usual spiel. All right. So here we find ourselves under the waters of the St. Lawrence River. So this is one of our main rivers coming from the Atlantic Ocean on the east coast of Canada. And so of course this is brackish water. So this is a combination of salt water meeting with our fresh water. And then that water will go down and dump into the Great Lakes in Ontario and beyond. And so of course, brackish water is a meeting point where fish such as salmon go to reproduce, so it's a very important ecosystem for the wild salmon of Canada. And salmon, of course, being a very popular fish in Canada, it's also the most common omiyage, or as people leave the country, so smoked salmon, very, very popular in Canada, as well as maple syrup, of course. So as you move your tablet around, you'll see that there are salmon swimming about in the waters. See if we can find another one. Some up there. So we'll be traveling across Canada via these waterways. Given that we have so much water in Canada, it's a very potent theme of our nation. Alright, so in this room here, we have these ice objects, very similar to those ice dams I was talking about, or icebergs that you'll find off the coast of Canada. So here, let's come to this one here. And those with tablets, what you just have to do is move your tablet around, and you'll see images appear. And so you can move your tablet, you can get closer, and as you get closer, you'll hear some of the sounds. So here we have some of our East Coasters celebrating in the middle of the winter, sharing good times with their families. So very typical images of the East Coast of Canada. You'll see these small villages on the coastlines, and the East Coasters are a very fun people. They like to have parties, they like to celebrate even when there's not necessarily anything happening. It's just the middle of the winter, so a very nice place to be. And then in Japan, I know she's very popular. We have the Green Gables, where Akage no Anne, or Anne of Green Gables, lives. So she's very popular in Japan, and perhaps even more popular here than in Canada. So we had to make sure that we had a little piece of that Canadiana here for everyone to see. And so we actually have images beyond the constraints of the icebergs themselves. So here you have some hot air balloons.
By holding the tablet to the iceberg, AR images emerge.
And you'll find this throughout some of the other icebergs. We actually have animals hidden, so sort of a little Easter egg for especially the kids to find. They really get excited when they see this one in particular. So we have a turtle here. So essentially, this whole iceberg is a turtle, and it's based on our First Nations stories of turtle islands. In some of the tribes as well, they'll have stories of Canada itself. So this here represents French Canada.
Fireworks over Quebec and people skating
this is
appear.
a festival taking place in Quebec City. It's the heart of French Canada, essentially. And here north a little bit. It's not cooperating. All right, give me a moment. So here we have the north of Canada, so the Arctic areas, the tundra, and what you're seeing here are actually animals that have been carved from soapstone. So soapstone has been traditionally carved by our First Nations people for many, many generations. Because it's a softer stone, it also comes in a variety of colors. So very popular for this carving technique. And actually, if we take our walk around the front of the iceberg, see here an Inuit woman. So the Inuit being the people of the north, the First Nations people of the north, and she's carving a narwhal. So we're showing here the use of new technology to maintain old traditions. So here being traditional arts. So embracing sort of the new while maintaining the old. And then if we bring the tablet up once again, beyond the constraints, we have the aurora. So a big draw for people to the north. You'll see these in the dark night sky, basically in the north. You'll even find aurora sometimes farther down to the south, depending on, say, some of the solar flares that are taking place, these types of things. So this iceberg in particular is also talking about a transition of technology from old transportation technology up to the airplane. So essentially, it's important to have good transportation in the north because it's so vast, and it's one of our least populated zones, but it is the largest zone as well. And then just back up a little bit. So as I back up, you'll see that it's all sitting on the back of a narwhal. So this is a narwhal. So this is a northern species of whale that you'll find. They have this long tusk. And so the First Nations people would hunt these whales but they would be very respectful and they take what they need, and they would use all of the parts of the animals. And this is the same for any animal that you would find the First Nations people.
You'll also find introductions to iconic Canadian buildings and festivals.
So here we have Niagara Falls, and so this is very important for Canada's tourism. We're very fortunate in our country to have this natural wonder right on the border between Canada and the United States, so it draws many, many people. But it's not just about tourism. We actually produce a lot of hydroelectricity at Niagara Falls and beyond. Because we're very fortunate to have this abundance of fresh flowing water in Canada, we can actually produce hydroelectricity, which is a very clean, sustainable way to make electricity. And we produce enough that we could even export it to the United States.
There are 9 icebergs in total, each installed with images from a different region of Canada. Of course, the beaver too, as its pelts helped spark Canada's trade in early times.
There's our beaver.
Wow.
So it was really important to have the beaver included here because, of course, the beaver is a symbol of Canada because we have many of them, but also at the beginning of the nation, we would actually hunt the beaver for their pelts, and that would be used in trade. So we had the fur trade, which was really what kickstarted exchange in Canada, essentially. So
The kids are loving it.
the tablet actually is it's reading the shapes of the icebergs because it's in that programming. So it's sort of like
or like a QR code sort of.
exactly what I was about to say. Think of them as a 3D QR code. So Privada Lepage, he basically took care of the imagery, what you're seeing, the layout. So world-renowned theater director amongst many, many other hats. JKFL. JKFL then did sort of the programming and took that AR technology and they pushed it a little further, so they were able to map out these objects, place the images onto those objects within their programming, and then they also programmed that when you get closer the sounds are stronger. So if you're in a specific zone you'll hear maybe music in one area. If you're looking at a dog you might hear the dog barking. So it's more advanced than the typical AR that we usually see. It's a little more technical than that, but in layman's terms.
You can even see historical footage, like steam locomotives, the starting point of trade.
So here we have a modern day train carrying some goods across the country. So that would be the Trans-Canada rail line that I was talking about, which unites the East Coast and the West Coast and allows us, especially back in the day before airplanes were available, it was allowing people to unite the country, to be able to see their family maybe on the other coast of the country, but also to transport our goods. And then there's that tree plant. This is actually current day. Yeah, and the opposite side way. So we can actually take that out if you want. So there's lots of things to discover. You really want to look all around the icebergs. But if you have time, we can actually go there. Oh, there's a lot of children though. And so this side here is a look into the past. So now we actually have a steam train, and there they're carrying the lumber. So one of the main exports from Canada at the beginning of our nation. And then I talked a little bit about symbols of Canada. So not only do we have the lumber, which was one of our main exports, but actually, if we come over here, so here's our beaver. So it was really important to have the beaver included here because, of course, the beaver is a symbol of Canada because we have many of them, but also at the beginning of the nation, we would actually hunt the beaver for their pelts, and that would be used in trade. So we had the fur trade, which was really what kickstarted exchange in Canada, essentially. So it was very important to have her here. These days, pretty well left alone to build her dams. And then showing some of the more natural wonders.
With the cutting-edge AR techniques, many iconic scenes of Canada appear on screen.
And I was talking about the sounds that you hear as you get closer. You can hear the lumberjacks whistling. So it was important to show these guys as well because it shows the industriousness of the people who established Canada. So there's a lot of trees in Canada, and they were able to cut down a deal of lumber to get kind of Canada and the United States kick-started. So they were very, very industrious in that they were using only hand tools to be able to cut this many trees. Of course, now we have larger machines that can take care of that, but I think it's good to have a nod to the people of our past as well. All right, so our final room.
And at the very last,
so yes, we've traveled across Canada via our waterways, from underwater, across the country, and now we end in space. So what you'll want to do is start looking down at the stars and then bring your tablet up.
astronauts appear in space.
So here we have some Canadian astronauts, and they're floating in the International Space Station, the ISS. They're looking down through the window of the ISS onto imagery of Canada. So this is actual GPS footage of Canada. So here we see some coastlines, some trees, some trees. And so it's about looking down at but also it does talk about being on the International Space Station and Canada being on that world stage. You know, working with other nations to find advancements in technology, in medical, all of these great things. So really about collaboration as well. Now, the last thing I'll draw your attention to is the music. So we can actually hear what's called throat singing. And so throat singing is actually a First Nations art as well. And so especially with the Inuit people, they would use basically their chest, and so it's sort of humming and breathing sounds that they make into beautiful music, very haunting melodies.
The vast green aurora shimmers into view as well. These newest techniques are to make adventure in Canada and more vivid. Nordic Pavilion won the Best Exhibition Display. The pavilion represented 5 countries: Iceland, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, and Finland. When you get inside, a spiral figure hanged from the roof greets you. These are 700 sheets of rice paper that was to be abandoned.
So, this pavilion theme is collaboration, trust, and circulation. those are all quite important theme for those 5 countries. It's not just about recycling and so on, but also finance. This is actually circulating, and it's a very important factor.
The concept is Nordic Circle. Initiatives grounded in collaboration, circulation, and trust.
So it's all Zen, it's circulation. What are the photos and what's the mind of it?
Yeah, exactly. So this is a collaboration between Japanese Zen Buddhism and Nordic design. And Zen Buddhism has some sort of the idea, which is named Enso. Part of the Enso mindset is everything is going around and around, and there is no beginning and end. And actually, this video shows us spring, autumn, summer, and winter, 4 seasons, so that as same as nature goes around, and there is no beginning and no end.
Each paper has videos and photos of the Nordic life projected, making a spiral figure. A quiet and calm space with images projected in different sized papers. They say this is also the Nordic value as well.
一枚一枚の紙の四角形がですね、形が違う、もしくはですね、サイズが違うのがお気づきいただけると思います。こちらはですね、実は北欧の一人一人個人を表しています。そこで多様性、こちらがフィーチャーされております。そして演奏の中にもですね、すべてというのは実は一つ一つの個人からできていると。そして、個人というのは全てが存在しない限りは存在できるものではないと。全体は合ってないようなものであるというですね、メッセージが込められています。こちらもですね、非常にノーディックの皆さんの考え方と似ておりまして、全体が、調和が取れていないと個人も存在することができない。同時に個人が存在しない限り全体の社会も存在することができないという考え方にのっとっています。
Another mindfulness was seen here. The pavilion of Uzbekistan was known with its architecture.
Garden of knowledge. Wow. ひんやりしますね。
After entering into the gardens of knowledge with displays showing its economy growing due to high birth rates, sustainable energy is what they work on.
30年までに 54% を再生可能なエネルギーに変える、そんな計画になっております。その人口が日に日に増加しております。毎年100万人ずつ増えている、そんな統計が出ております。そしてそれに合わせて都市計画が進められています。そうなんですね。はい。毎年100万人ずつ増えているという肉をお願いします。でそれを押し止める、そんな緑化をする国際的なプロジェクトが進められている教育のクラスターの分野が展示されています。こちらですが、ウズベキスタンの最後の都市であるサマルカンドの展示です。今、2750年の歴史を持つ町なんですが、そのランドマークであるビビハニムモスクというモスクの修復プロジェクトです。14世紀にご覧いただけるようになっております。一番有名なのがこの州細工のスザニという細工です。こちら最後のショップにもサンプルがございますので、もしよろしければご覧くださいませ。世界の主だった博物館や美術館、例えばパリのルーブルですとか、あとベニスのビエンナーレ、そうした博物館とのコラボレーション展示が世界的に展開されています。ウズベキスタンからさまざまな国へというイメージです。
Vakilutvecksa Hedekleider. 私たちは何世紀にもわたる知恵、価値観、そして遺産を受け継ぎ一つに紡いでいる。We unite the knowledge, values and heritage that human economy.
青みがかかった色なんですが、これはブハの色、もう少し緑がかかったそれぞれの町にそれぞれのカラーがあるんですが、万博のためにこのタイルを1万1000枚ほどその職員さんが作って持ってきてくださいました。
And then onto the rooftop. The rooftop welcomes you with a vast view. Crafted in a fusion of brick, clay, and sugi cedar wood from the mountains surrounding Osaka, the pavilion is a contemporary reimagining of Uzbekistan's gardens and architectural heritage. It sits on a triangular plot, echoing the form of an ancient Central Asian amulet known as a tumar.
NSC になっておりまして、タッチするとそれぞれの木の産地の情報がご覧いただけるようになっております。これは紀州ですね。はい。全部で9つの県の、集められた杉の木となっております。先ほどご説明させていただいた、持って帰るための工夫なんですが、こちらに一本一本木がありまして、見てみるとこうした割れ目が入っております。これは背割りという技術を使っておりまして、日本の気候が湿気が多い、湿度が多いのに対し、持って帰るウズベキスタンは非常に乾燥しているので、そういう変化を経験すると、こういう年輪がある木というのはパカッと割れてしまう危険性があるわけですね。なのでそれを防ぐためにあえてこういう割れ目を入れておくことでそれを防ぐという工夫がされているわけです。はい。
They say these spaces are a hallmark of Uzbekistan's culture of retreat. These spaces with philosophy are universal and were admired by many people at the expo. Water show, drone show, and fireworks were also popular in Expo.
Dodo? みんないなくなっちゃった。
The expo is about to finish, but many memories and message brought to feel and enjoy. Hoping that everyone's future would be better.